You know, something that has grabbed your heart and that you have advocated on behalf of are the 9/11 victims, law enforcement officials and others who suffered after 9/11. And what you've achieved has got to be probably one of your proudest moments of your career, what you've achieved for them.
Well, I've also won a Cable Ace Award. So, you know, it's, you know, we got a neck and neck situation right here.
I want to talk about Jon Stewart. He's a good man. And I tell you what, I hope he runs one day.
Being able to be a part of that community, being able to in some way repay the debt of those whose courage and tenacity that day were so incredible has been an incredible experience. And it's led me to these other issues and people.
So you can draw a direct line from advocating for 9/11 responders and then for our veterans, and certainly what many of them have experienced through burn pits, which
Ground Zero was, in many ways, the original burn pit. It was all the materials, basically, of a single city block covered in jet fuel and burned for days while our first responders and people that lived in the area breathed in all those fumes. And we saw the devastating effects that those kinds of toxins had. Well, if you served in Iraq or Afghanistan, chances are you slept next to one of those. And it was a pit that they deposited everything that an army can possibly produce, from human waste to medical waste to human body parts to armaments to all kinds of other things, with kerosene or diesel or jet fuel. And these things burned 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Not because it was necessary to, but because incinerators are slightly more expensive, and the contractors, you know, didn't want to have any part of that.
All those who are interested in politics in my generation have been watching Jon Stewart for 30 years. We know where he is, we know who he is, we know what he is. And he's a good man. He wants to make things better, and he wants to point out the bullshit. And that's what he's done.
And they've suffered, as our veterans have suffered in every war. Toxic exposure, for some reason, toxic wounds have never been viewed as wounds. Toxic exposure has always been somehow pushed aside. I mean, we're all standing on the shoulders of Vietnam veterans. If Vietnam veterans hadn't fought the way they had to try and get coverage for the diseases that they were suffering based on their Agent Orange exposure, we would never be in the place we are, where we've almost got this really historic Toxic Exposure Act on the precipice of getting signed into law. But, you know, the Vietnam veterans were the OGs on this. They were the ones that, and by the way, are still fighting for certain benefits. But Persian Gulf War veterans, anybody that serves, you know, you got guys sitting in Humvees next to depleted uranium. We just haven't done a good job of recognizing the total cost of our, you know, military adventures.
You know, John, I have covered President Biden for many years. I've interviewed him. You know, I used to cover the Senate. I covered him as vice president. You know, I knew about his son, Bo, serving in Iraq and then dying of brain cancer. But it really wasn't only until the past year or two that I learned that President Biden believes that burn pits may have caused his son's brain cancer.
You know, a toxic wound is an IED that goes off in your body 6 to 9 to 10 years later. Everybody's immune system is different. So you may develop a glioblastoma from 6 months exposure. You may develop it from a 3-week exposure, and it may not present itself for 5 years or 7 years. Unfortunately, people think veterans get health care for life. They don't. The bottom line of it is, this turns the VA into an advocate rather than an adversary. It makes the VA not act like an insurance company. It presumes if you served, it presumes an exposure, and therefore there's a list of diseases that we know are caused by these exposures, and you'll be granted your health care and you know, whatever disability rating may come along with that. They lived up to the agreement. They lived up to their end of the bargain. You fought for the country, and the country has to hold up its agreement to you. This is the cost of war. You don't penalize veterans for your budgeting error.
You're damn right.
I think when you transition out of the Army or the Navy or the Air Force or any of these services, it's disorienting because your whole life has been kind of mission oriented, and it's been all about the camaraderie of your unit and the team and the love you have for each other and the sacrifices that you'll make for each other. And so it's already isolating when you find yourself transitioning out of that, and then to be wounded or ill otherwise is even further isolating. And a lot of these service members feel like they lose themselves. And so finding these adaptive rehabilitation methods, whether it be swimming or cycling or shot put, archery, any of the shooting, brings them back into not just competition, not just athletics, but camaraderie, team, mission, and boy, it's something. It's something to watch, and seeing them go through seeded volleyball matches or wheelchair basketball or those kinds of things, and the level of competition, and seeing that warrior come back out in them. I really think these kinds of programs save lives.
Wouldn't have even have tried to say it better myself.
Is there a goal for this year with the Warrior Games?
The goal is to get all the athletes together again. So much of what's gone on over the last 3 years, and we'll check in with the teams, on and off, and so much of the Warrior Games is teammates holding other teammates accountable to each other and getting everybody together again and reminding them that they're part of this larger family and this larger group, and holding each other accountable for someone who might be struggling or keeping an eye. It's eyes on everybody, and it's the first time we're able to get eyes on everybody in quite some time. So the goal is always that first and foremost. And secondly, it's to let the public in and to see this incredible demonstration of athletic competition and of skill and of tenacity and all those things that make it such a remarkable competition.
Well, Jon Stewart, it's been lovely to speak with you. And
lovely to speak with you, Nora.
No, and for all that you do, really, on behalf of first responders and our veterans. It's so noble, and I know it's so appreciated.
No, it is in no way that.
No.
It is.
Well,
I get
humble,
a tremendous satisfaction from it, and they elevate me every time that I have the opportunity to be around them, and it has been my distinct, pleasure to be able to be a small part of it.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, Nora.
Jon Stewart has been guarding that wall for a long time. And we need him on that wall. We want him on that wall. And I hope he stays on that wall, because he's holding the line. And one of these days, we should seriously consider putting him in office. He'll never agree to it. Maybe we should make him. Maybe we should draft him. Hashtag draft Jon Stewart. Tweet it. Insta book it. Facegram it. Whatever it is y'all do. Hell, Facegram this video. Twit this video. Or whatever. Please. Like and subscribe. I'm Zachariah. Hashtag draft Jon Stewart. Y'all take it easy. I'm Zachariah, Lone Star Liberal.